Welcome back to another episode of What Are You Made Of with your boy, the unstoppable Mike C-Roc. I'm here today with another unstoppable Michael. His name's Michael Alden. And before I introduce him, I want to thank you for listening. Thank you for coming and supporting me every single week. Thank you for the support of the What Are You Made Of movement and the Rocket Fuel book. I'm just honored and want to express gratitude and very thankful to have you as a part of my mission. And so with that being said, I want to introduce today's guest, Michael Alden. Is that Esquire? Is that what the ESQ?
It is Esquire. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to put that in there because he studied
You
a lot.
you don't have to, but
He's a CEO, entrepreneur, and three-time Wall Street Journal and USA Today best-selling author. He was named by the Boston Business Journal as one of Boston's 40 under 40 and was a winner of the Smart CEO's Future 50 Awards, largely based on his accomplishment of growing a small call center into a comprehensive multi-million-dollar marketing firm, ranked by Inc. magazine for 3 years in a row as one of the nation's 5,000 fastest growing private companies. He's been Infomercial King, sold millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of things besides books. And with that being said, I just want to introduce you to my man, Michael Alden. What's up, Mike?
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you too, brother. Thanks for having me on your show the other day. It just released today as we speak. I'm looking forward to seeing that and getting that out to people to help promote your show as well. And the tradition that we have on this show is to ask the question, what are you made of?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't think about that question until you just said it to me before we started recording, and I kind of go back to my roots and kind of like what you do as well, as I go back to the pain that I grew up with and the suffering that I grew up with. And I've been able to build upon that adversity and build upon that pain in order to succeed. So, I'm really a compilation of being able to deal with that adversity, deal with that pain, and then just keep going through. Because what I realized in life, and this is the kind of like the essence of your book, Rocket Fuel, is like, you really have one of two choices: either give up or you take that adversity, like you talk about in your book, and turn it into, rocket fuel. So I'm a compilation of a kid that grew up in the projects with nothing, surrounded by crime, drugs, and violence. And I was able to see that, there are other things that you can do in life. There are ways to kind of get through, and you can learn from those experiences, and you can go one of two ways, right? You can be a criminal, or you can try and be a successful human being. And so I decided to go with the successful human being route.
So have you gone and made wrong decisions when you were a young kid?
Yeah.
And hang out with the wrong crowd?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was fortunate. I only got arrested a couple times. I got arrested when I was 14, which is, it was a really interesting moment in my life, actually, when I got arrested at 14. It's kind of like, it sounds kind of silly now sitting here at 46 years old. But it was at one of those moments that literally changed my life for the better, actually. Everybody in the neighborhood, they all had dirt bikes, and most of them were stolen dirt bikes. And I had this it was a Harley Davidson, actually. It was an AMC Harley. It was two-stroke thing, was fast as hell. And I dropped my girlfriend off at 14. There's a problem there, but dropped my girlfriend off at 14 at she lived in the projects, just the other projects.
What city was this?
In Beverly, Mass. People joke around that these projects in Beverly, Mass. Look, there are projects everywhere, man. Like every town, the nicest towns in the country have projects. And I was just, I happened to be in one of them. My girlfriend was in the other one. Dropped her off, and I came down this hill by my high school. I was a freshman in high school, and I saw the lights of a police car behind me. So I figured, all my buddies, they had they'd outrun cops. At least they said they did. So I said, well, you know what? Fuck it. I think I can do the same thing. So I decided I'm going to outrun the police. That turned into 2 police cars following me. Then it turned into 3 police cars following me. And then it turned into pretty much every violation you can imagine on a motor vehicle, blowing through 2 stop signs, cutting across street cars, driving off the side of the road, dumped the bike. I got arrested and it made the front page of the paper. And it said, cyclist 14 faces many charges after schoolyard chase. And, the next day at football practice, the coach was like, hey, did you hear about this crazy kid driving around Beverly like a lunatic, doing all sorts of stuff? Like, what a maniac, And I said, well, that was me, and so that was like the first time where I realized that decision that I made could have been a life altering consequence that literally could have changed my life for the worse. Unfortunately, they sat me down and said, look, if you ever do anything like this again, you're off the team. That was the first thing. But I got arrested and I got probation. And when I got probation, I got a probation officer. His name is Jeff Ryan. It's this big dude. He played in the CFL. He actually drove a Ferrari. He drove a Ferrari because he played in the CFL. The guy actually made money. And he was a big, scary looking guy. And I used to have to report to him every week. And not only did I have to report my grades, but he used, was asking me what I'm up to. And he would go to all my football games. He took a real interest in me. Not that I didn't have that. I mean, I had coaches and teachers. My parents were involved, even though, we grew up kind of tough. But Jeff Ryan basically scared me into success. And he said, look, there are certain ways you can go, and you can, by the way, when I got probation, I also had a year hanging over my head at 14, meaning if I screwed up, I was going to go to juvie. Right. And fast forward to years later, when I was what they call 303 certified by the Supreme Judicial Court here in Mass, meaning I can act like a lawyer because I was in my last year of law school, and I had a bunch of cases in the toughest town in Massachusetts called Lawrence, Mass. And who was the probation officer that I had a bunch of cases with? None other than Jeff Ryan. So I was able to tell him, thank you, man, for that. So yeah, I used to fight all the time too, like all the time. I mean, if I wasn't fighting in school, then something was wrong.
Why though? What was?
Because I'm a big dude, man. I'm a big dude, and people used to just fuck with me. Plain and simple, so it's like, you want a shot at the title, and that was it. And I never brought it, but when it came to me, it was usually lights out. And so I've been shot at like point blank range, like point blank, gun pointed at me, fired. I've been stabbed, I've been jumped. And I was always the type of kid that, I just didn't back down too, but I didn't bring it. Like I didn't enjoy it. Like I was a tough kid. But like being punched in the face hurts, having your nose broken 5 times hurts. It's not fun, So, but at the same time, that when you talk about what I'm made of, like that mentality of being that kid from the streets and being that kid with a chip on his shoulder is who I am today. I just harness it a little bit differently. Like I'd love to punch some fucking people in the face at 46 years old, but that doesn't make sense. I get too much to lose. Yeah. So what do? I take it, I harness it, I embrace it, and I say to myself, all right, well, that negative energy, how do I turn that into a positive thing? And how do I turn this whole situation around so that, we can actually do business together and we can build a relationship together? A funny story about the whole fighting thing is some of my closest friends, I literally met in a brawl. Like we became best friends after just fighting because we'd kick the shit out of each other and realize, man, we're both tough dudes. We're not bad people. It just is what it is. And let's be friends. So, and by the way, that happens in business all the time with me as well. Like as a lawyer, when I was practicing law, I used to battle all the time. And that kid from the projects would always come out. You have to be careful, especially not in the courtroom. My ex-wife said to me, she's like, you're a lawyer, you need to start acting like it. When I was in federal court, I wasn't dropping F-bombs, but sometimes when I was on conference calls with the lawyers, I was. And, it's like, it's a weird thing. There's a code of ethics and kind of a morality code that's not, necessarily in writing with lawyers. When you drop an F-bombs with lawyers, it just doesn't look good. So I had to kind of change my mentality, pretty quickly. So yeah, the long-winded answer, I was a punk, man. I was a real punk. I'll just tell you too, one more thing, like one of the life-altering things again, I was 15 now, and I was beating people up. I was stealing things. We were breaking into places. I tell people, the difference was I just didn't get caught. And when my father took me for a long walk on the beach and he said, look, man, here's the deal. By the way, I never did any drugs too. That's also like one of the big things I think that helped me, So he says, look, you're breaking the law, you're fighting, you're stealing, you're doing all these things. I'm Italian. And my dad says, look, I know guys, like I know actual guys in the mob. And if you want an introduction, like let's meet them, let's talk to them, because if you're going to do this, if you're going to live this life, you might as well be great at it. It was the fucking weirdest thing ever. Like my dad was talking to me like he was proud of me, but he knew exactly what he was doing. And then he was like, look, here are the consequences. You have to be prepared to go to jail, which you haven't. Oh, well, one time, I was just, locked up or whatever when I got arrested. You have to be prepared to go to jail, and you have to be prepared to potentially die. And if you're comfortable with those two things, I'll make an intro to these guys. And I was like, fuck, man, like, I don't want to do that. That was like 15 years old. And I was like, I don't want to be that kid. The kids I grew up with, either are dead or in jail. I mean, one kid I grew up with is in jail for life for murder. I mean, and like I testified in the trial. And so like, I saw what that was like. I didn't want to be that kid. And so at 14, 15 years old, everybody who's listening, I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs have this, or you have kids that have this. At some point in your life, you have to make the decision, not your mother, not your father, not your coach, not anybody else. So at some point in my life, I was fortunate enough to say, all right, you know what? I can't do this anymore unless I really want to go to jail. Like I want to be somebody. And so, yeah, I was a bad kid, but I was fortunate to turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been in handcuffs. I mean, I've done some stupid shit, but never been in handcuffs by the police anyway.
Oh, that's a whole nother,
but
that's a different podcast.
yeah, but you know, I could have been. I mean, I've done some. So lost purpose, lost intention leads you down the destructive path. And I see things going on now, and I know and I understand more now where people are just redirecting their focus into the wrong things. And once you find and you have a purpose and intention, and you've directed on the right thing, you become unstoppable. Period. So it's either
100%.
building, or destroying. That's the two choices, and that's what we do now, right?
Yeah. I mean, again, it's totally, I mean, people talk about mindset and the shift and the things that we learn. And I know that, we both have kind of similar journeys and the things that we've learned. And we gravitate towards other people that are successful, and we learn from them. And I was fortunate to be able to do that, but it wasn't until my 20s where I really started to say, all right, well, I mean, it was in law school and I started to read success books, and I was like, all right, like I want to level up, like I want to do more. And I need to really do a good job of taking that chip off my shoulder and maybe putting it in my pocket and just and redirecting it,
Yep.
and it's not easy to do. It's not, because I'm at 46 years old. Look, the office I'm in right now, like if I walk out to the left, it's a massive building, a place called the Cumming Center. It's actually one of the oldest factories in the United States. It's 11 acres of office space. It's really kind of cool. And actually, Italian Masons built the place. But as I walk out to the left, I can see the projects that I grew up in, and then across the street, I can see the projects that my brothers, because they're all half brothers, and my father lived in as well. But it reminds me of where I was. But here's the other thing, C-Roc, is that I'm not staying there. Like I can see it, and I drive by it all the time to remind myself, but I'm not staying there. Too many people stay there mentally as well. That's the point.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
I can't be there mentally anymore if I want to be successful.
So when you decided to get out of that, did you have friends that you were hanging out with that hated on you and talk shit about you, and because you're
Yeah,
wrong?
because there does become a point, just like in life or wherever it is, we talk about, you are a reflection of really kind of the five people that surround you. And it was the same thing. Here's the cool part about where I grew up is because in Beverly, Massachusetts, Beverly Hills was founded from a guy from Beverly, Mass, right? So Beverly, Mass has old money, like really, like some of the wealthiest people in the world live here. It's a coastal town, it's gorgeous. But at the same time, you also had kids like me that were on subsidized housing and Section 8 and WIC and Salvation Army and all that other stuff. So when I went to elementary school, I was able to see that. I could see the differences, So I did have friends that I used to think were rich. They were just middle class or even lower middle class. Like they had a house and their parents had a car that wasn't repoed every couple months. And, they didn't lose their electricity because the bill wasn't paid. Like I would go to their houses and I'd open the refrigerator and it was full, and they had two parents and they had brother. And so I was able to see that stuff. And those are the kids that I wanted to be with. Those are the kids that I wanted to hang around with. And the other kids that grew up in the project with me, you eventually just start to go away. The kid I had mentioned, it's weird. I don't know at what point in my life I'll ever stop talking about it because it was such a traumatic event. But the kid that's in jail for life for murder, we were very close. Like we grew up together in the same neighborhood, like we were like as little kids. And the day the murder happened, I was supposed to be there. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was supposed to be there, but fortunately I had already started to kind of get out of the projects. And my girlfriend at the time, her dad was a doctor. I was like, geez, like they're super rich, right? And she picked me up and brought me to her house. And there wasn't any, like, I didn't know what was going down. It just happened to happen. And again, it's those little moments, man, that for the grace of God go I.
So was it premeditated, or he just was going to fight the guy or something?
No, he killed his girlfriend. First degree murder.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was a fight or something.
Yeah, no, it was ugly.
Then you knew the girl too?
Yeah, I know her really well. Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, growing up something like that, even though
I testified in the trial. So I testified in the we were young, we were freshmen, sophomores when it happened. And then years later, when the trial happened, by the time the trial happened, I was class president and captain of the football team. And I testified on behalf of the defense, not because I wanted to, it's just because that's how I was called.
Right.
And so the trauma of that, even compounded even worse, because now I'm a senior in high school. Now I'm like, I'm going to college, at least I'm trying to. And I testify. I mean, it's made actually international news, not just local news. And I was ostracized in the press. There were pictures of me and the district attorney facing off to each other. There was a quote that said, "So much for the class president of Beverly High School." Like, it was fucking ugly, right? But here's the crazy thing. The same district attorney that called me basically a piece of shit in the fucking papers, and the same district attorney that was on the news, again, saying really bad things about me because I looked really bad. Because here's the thing, I testified. When you grow up the way I grew up, like, you see bad things, like really bad things, and so they were asking me questions about what had happened when I was younger, a couple of years younger. But now I'm class president, Capital Football, like, I'm doing things, and so it crushed me. But years later, I graduated college and I was running a local campaign in Beverly, and he came to this event, and his name is Kevin Burke. And I went up to him and I handed him my resume. By then, I was class president in college as well. I'd worked for a congressman. I was definitely going to law school. I handed him my resume and I looked him right in the eye and I said, "So much for the class president of Beverly High School." And he says, "Oh, you're Mike. My real last name is Mike Ciorrocco." He goes, "Oh, you're Mike Ciorrocco." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "I want to talk to you. I want to meet with you." And I said, "Really?" So I took that meeting. I met with him, and he said, "What do you want to do with your life?" I said, "I want to go to law school." He was a lawyer, obviously, and he said, "Mike, I apologize for everything I did.
This is the DA,
the fucking DA, the same DA.
Yeah.
I apologize for everything I did, and I will do anything I can to help get you into law school." And he did. And not only did he give me a letter of recommendation, but my last year in law school, when I needed an internship, because I went nights, it's hard to get an internship when you're going nights. He basically, I wouldn't say broke the rules, but he made it happen for me outside of the normal kind of procedures, and got me an internship with the district attorney's office. So, and I almost became a DA, but they just don't pay enough. So everything kind of comes full circle. I think you talk about this, about the silver lining and being able to see through. You can't see it now, and you can't see it then when you're going through it. But if you can understand that eventually, it might not happen right now, eventually all that negative shit that you're going through can in fact turn into a positive. You just need to keep looking for it.
Yeah, that's what I say. You look at it, you look for it as soon as you can. Like, look for opportunity immediately. As soon as you recognize a setback or disappointment, something, immediately. Don't, like, as soon as it, accept it. Don't try to deny it. Don't let your subconscious mind try to fuck with you. Immediately. And then you get a head start on the competition, a head start on the recovery, whatever. And it's just phenomenal. But that's fantastic that you did that. So then how come you don't practice law much now? Like, what happened after you got your law degree?
So what happened was I got really lucky. I was in law school nights, and a friend of mine was actually working in a call center, and she was making like $1,300 a week back then. And I was like, if you're making $1,300, I'll triple it, because I had, I'd sold cars right out of college. I was a recruiter before that, and did well there. So I came into this call center. They were doing, it was like you like the movie The Boiler Room? It was that, but there were guys on the ankle bracelet. I mean, they were just like straight up criminals in this place. I'm in law school. I go to get a job there. They actually, they told me they didn't have room for me. And I was like, hold on a second here. I'm in a suit. I'm in law school. I know how to sell. I'll crush it. And they said no to me. So I went around the person that said no to me. I went to a different division, which was customer service. I went to customer service. I met a different guy. He hired me, I started out my career in this business of direct response in customer service, which again is a blessing because I learned what people feel like when they call and they don't get their stuff, or when they don't get their refund, or when stuff doesn't get shipped and all that other stuff, how to handle that stuff. So when people would call me in customer service, all pissed off, I'd sell them like 100 units. I said, look, you're never going to run out again. Why don't you just buy 100 of them?
What was it? What was it that you were selling?
Supplements. We're just selling supplements. Yeah. So ultimately they hired me as their lawyer, C-Roc. And I don't know if you know this part of the story, but the day I started with these guys, the fucking day I started, they were sued by the FTC. The FDA came right behind them. The IRS came behind them, and then it went criminal. So when I say that, I mean the day. Like I didn't even have what's called your BBO number yet. I had already passed the bar exam, but you get a card. It's your number. It's like your social security number. I didn't even have it yet. So I was I had to expedite my license in federal court as well, because this was a federal case. It was a $54 million judgment. They moved for an asset freeze. They moved for a complete takeover of the company, and they wanted to shut the that was my indoctrination to the law. So ultimately, we fought that case. I did a great job. It wasn't just me. There was outside counsel, because this was like real deal shit. I just started. But then ultimately, they went out of business in 2008, and I started my company, essentially doing the same thing, but just better. You know, when you kind of grow up like that in a legal world like that, you learn what not to do. So they're also, they were doing some great things. They weren't all bad people there. In fact, the people that work for me now were the people that worked over there. In fact, the woman that hired me in customer service, she now works for me, and she's been working for me for 12 years. So, you know, sometimes when you're going through whatever, I know that you've had a bad, you know, not, I wouldn't say bad experiences, but you've had some experiences with some of your previous businesses where things didn't really go the way they should have. And you kind of take that negative stuff and say, all right, well, this is how these guys fuck this whole thing up. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to learn what they did. I'm just going to make it better. And that's exactly what I did in 2008. And, you know, here we are today.
And then, so what do you sell now?
So primarily we sell nutritional products, health and wellness products, dietary supplements.
And then is it your products, or you're subbed out to do that?
Like, yeah, so it's mostly our products, you know. So my business model is somewhat unique. A lot of times people will come to me with a product or an idea, and depending on the stage of development, we'll take it over. So a lot of you know, inventors or visionaries or whatever you want to call them, they don't know how to market, right? And so we do. And so if you come to me with your dietary supplement that you think is the best thing since sliced bread, well, we look at it from a bunch of different perspectives. By the way, I still keep my license active as far as the law is concerned, and I would still say today that I know more about how to market dietary supplements than any other lawyer on the planet, just because I grew up in it and I'm doing it now. So I'll look at a supplement and we'll say, okay, it's great, good ingredients, good formula, but the science doesn't really match up. So we'll go back to them and say, look, we're going to own it and we'll just pay you a royalty. And if you don't want to do that, that's cool. So that's, you know, that's our business model. So we own it. So we do have people that want us to do stuff for them. It usually just doesn't work out that way, because financially, like if you want to get to the numbers that we've done before, there's just a lot involved, from manufacturing to merchant processing, to shipping, to customer service, to fulfillment, to call centers, websites, all that stuff. And most of these guys, they don't have that type of resources. And not only do they don't have the resources, they just don't know how to do it, you know? So
how many people you have working with you?
Right now, you know, at one point I had almost 200. Now I only have 20, because as I've grown up as a lawyer and a business professional, when I first started in my, you know, late 20s, early 30s, man, I wanted that big company. I'm coming in, I'm rocking the $2,000 suits and pulling up in the Lexus and the Rolex, and I'm just a big shot. And I had the fucking corner office. Everything was great. You know, we were spending $600,000 a week, not a month, not a year, a week in media. You know, we're crushing it. It was like, you should have seen it. It was like, it was like being in Vegas. The calls, the phones were always 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The problem is, C-Roc, is I was losing 200 a week. And so, and when as I grew up as an entrepreneur and went into debt and talked to people that I owed money to, a lot of them were empathetic of you know, being a young entrepreneur, and they helped me. And they said, look, you know, if you want us to continue to fund you, or if you want us to continue to give you product, you got to make some tough decisions. That means you got to cut, you know, 25% of your staff. You got to sub out all these other things. So at one point I subbed out all of my call center stuff, and then I sold my call center. So a majority of my employees, at one point we had almost 180 of them were just call center agents. And the other 20 are executives. And those are the ones that are still here, the other 20.
Gotcha. And and then you went into writing books. So tell us about that. How'd you get into writing books, and tell us about the books?
Yeah, so I've written a bunch of books, right? My first book is titled Ask More, Get More, How to Earn More, Save More, and Live More Just by Asking. I wrote that in 2014. And, you know, I wrote that book initially to sell it on television as an infomercial, kind of is exactly what's happening right now online, where, you know, it's a lead gen, or a lead magnet, they call it, where people are going to call in about the book, and then we're going to upsell them and sell them a program. Well, that book turned into more than just that. And as I continued to write the book and people started to read the book, they're like, man, I think you should get like a real publisher. I had never published a book before. I didn't consider myself an author, but I submitted it to Greenleaf Publishing. And by the way, I don't know if you know this part. So when I was deciding how I was going to find a publisher, and you travel all over the country and you go to all the different Hudson Newses, well, Grant Cardone's first book was with Greenleaf Publishing. So I said, if it's good enough for Grant, it's good enough for me. And they said yes. And then when I launched that book, Ask More, Get More, it was everywhere. And when I say everywhere, like it was next to Tony it was my book, Ryan Blair at the time, and Ryan and I are good friends because of his book, Tony Robbins and Grant Cardone. And that's what it looked like during that time in 2014. That ultimately turned into Grant Cardone reaching out to me and saying, hey, look, why don't you come on Power Players? My second book, and then it also turned into me getting a 2-book deal with Wiley and Son. So Wiley's the 5th largest publisher in the world. They loved what I did with the first book. Second book is titled 5% More. And the premise behind 5% More, I'll just tell you, I know sounds like I'm just drank way too much coffee.
No, you're good. You're good.
Because I did. But with 5% More, it's an interesting story. I know you like to hit the gym, and I do as well. And I went to a spinning class with my girlfriend, right? And I don't know if you've ever been in a spinning class,
one time, and that was enough to hurt my ass. My hair hurt my taint so bad. I had to, this is the stupidest thing I could ever imagine.
So I'm in this spinning class, and now everyone sees what it looks like with Peloton, right? And at the front of the room, there's a teacher, and it's motivational, and they're pumping EDM music, and she says, look, it's a 45-minute class. She goes, look, this is a 45-minute class, and she goes, we have 5 minutes left. What I'm asking for you to do for these next 5 minutes, I want you to give me 5% more effort. She goes, if you give me 5% more effort, you're going to burn more calories. Your heart rate is going to increase. When you get off the bike, your metabolic rate is going to increase. And ultimately, you're going to live a healthier, happier life. And then she said, C-Roc, anybody can do anything 5% more. And then it was like, boom, like that was it. Like just a bell. Like I didn't have an idea to write a second book. Yeah. I wasn't even sure what to do. I jumped off the bike. I cleaned it off because I'm not a slob. I went into the car and I started writing it down. I'm like, man, I wonder if there's another book out there like it. I couldn't find it initially, started to write some things down. I went to my editor that helped me edit the first book. His name is Chris Benyu. He's a professional writer as well. And I said, Chris, what do you think? He said, let's vet it out a little bit. We vetted it out, started writing it, created a book proposal, which is about 180 pages. It was actually 108. And then we went to Wiley through a connection that I had. Wiley loved it and gave me a 2-book deal. And then my last book, most recently, is called Blueprint to Business. And I think you'd appreciate Blueprint to Business. It's truly an entrepreneur's guide to doing the things that most people won't. Like if I need to take the trash out, I'm taking the trash out. If I need to vacuum in the office, I'm vacuuming it. If I need to take customer service calls, I'm in it. If I need to be in shipping, and you can go back on my Instagram and see some of my videos, like I'll pack boxes if I need to. And there's a lesson to that too, because when you're packing boxes and when you're taking phone calls or when you're closing, mortgage deals yourself, you might see that, hey, you know what, there's something broken here, or there's something that's actually working really well here. And maybe we can improve upon that. So that the mentality of being that high level executive and just, kind of ruling from the top just doesn't work anymore. You need to actually know what's going on in your business. And I have learned so much about my business by doing the things that most people won't. And that it's everything from stuff that I don't even know how to do, like programming our phones, because we would have like hundreds of phones, and understanding, like what, our email campaigns and how to do it myself. Like I'm not good at all this stuff. I'm only good at really kind of the sales side of things, but I will work in these different departments so that I could grow my business. And that's really what my book Blueprint to Business is about. It's about the things that the non-sexy things in business, setting up the business, the back end stuff, again, the customer service, dealing with all the bullshit that you don't see. You don't see it on Instagram. You don't see you don't see it when your bank accounts get frozen, or you don't, and how do you react? Like, what do you do? Because that happens with any business for whatever reason. You don't see that, when customers are returning things, or all just the negative stuff that just happens in business. I show people what it's really like to be an entrepreneur, because too many entrepreneurs out there are they're just unrealistic. They're unrealistically optimistic. Optimism is a great thing, but you also need to be realistic, because business is hard, man. It's fucking hard. And you talk about, we just talked about it, about being able to see that and break through that negative thing that's happening right now. That's hard to do. Easier said than done. But if you can change your mental state and recognize that business, real business, not these fucking guys on Instagram trying to teach people how to run a business that have never run a business before. Real business, the type of businesses that you and I run, with real people that have mortgages and families and all that other stuff that you have to deal with. It's hard. But if you really want it, you should learn every aspect of it, so that if something goes wrong, you can at least make an intelligent decision on how to then move forward.
Yeah. But there's a fine line there. So for people that are listening, don't take this that say that you should be doing those things, and not when somebody comes to you in your business and they say, I need this done. I need help with this. I need this. Don't do it for them. That's not what Mike's saying
It's
here.
not,
Mike's,
yeah.
because we go through this in our business, and right now, currently, actually, we're working on getting really like tightening this up, where we have, for example, a loan officer goes out, they're salespeople. They're supposed to be getting business. They're not supposed to be tied up into the process of the loans once they come in.
Right.
And we're working on cleaning some of that up, because it's slowing the prospecting down, which will in turn slows the revenue down of the company. So, well, you're not saying that everybody should be involved with everything and not doing the duty that they're
No, I'm
supposed
not
to.
even, I'm saying you as the CEO
Well,
and
even
me
the
as the
C- but
CEO.
even the CEO has to stay out of that stuff for the most part. But if they need to get in there because there's holes in the boat, everybody's involved with it. Whatever.
So if you don't know how to fix those holes in the boat will sink.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. You're right. I'm not saying, look, we at my company, we call it a beehive mentality, where the queen bee is really the company. It's not me, it's the company. So everybody, if you look at a beehive, right, they're all there to actually serve the queen bee, and they're all there, they're creating honey, and they're all doing it, right?
Yep.
But they're really serving that one purpose. And so us, like my CIO, my CFO, my director of marketing, me, my general counsel, like my general counsel will edit videos because he has an undergrad degree in cinematography. If he's a fucking lawyer, but he doesn't look at it like, I'm a lawyer, dude. No, it's more like, if we need this done. So I'm not saying, yeah, exactly. I'm not saying, help people out. What I'm saying is that in order to be successful in business, and even if it is one of your employees, they should know about how the other divisions work. I'm not saying work in those divisions, but like everyone that works for me, you go through customer service, you go through shipping, you go through sales, you go in the studio. We're here in the studio. You learn all the different aspects of it. I'm not asking you to work that stuff, but you should know how all the different departments work together, because you know what, man, like you see it all the time with sales. Sometimes the sales department doesn't jive with the customer service department, because the customer service department might cancel a loan, whatever it is. So now they're mad at the customer service department. But if they don't know or understand why something happened, then it can just change your culture. I know you're big on culture. One of the big things in my culture is making sure that everybody knows what everybody does. I'm not saying do it, but make sure you at least have an understanding.
There's an old saying, what you don't know about your business runs you.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah.
So Mike, as we wind this down, how can my audience engage with you further? How can they reach you?
Sure. Again, thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it. Congratulations on your book, man. I know you're doing some great things. I know you got a launch coming up. Yeah. So if you want to reach out to me, it's at Mike Alden 2012. People's like, what's up with the 2012? That's just when I started to get busy on social media. So that's pretty much everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook. Send me a message if you have any questions. I'd love to interact with you and help as best I can.
Yeah. And then what book do you want to tell them to go get? What's the most important one to you right now?
Well, you know what? I don't necessarily have one that I think all my books are great. So if you actually go to, so I have if you're an author and you're interested in kind of marketing a book, I do have a website. It's called bestsellersecretsbook.com. If you go to bestsellersecretsbook.com, I do actually give that book away for free. It's 27,000 words of everything that I've done. But then the next upsell is also all three of my books: Blueprint to Business, 5% More, and Ask More, Get More. And I believe that, look, there's nothing new in the world of success. There's nothing that I'm going to say that you may not have already heard before. It's just kind of my version of it. That's just the way it is. But you will most likely understand that that a normal, average, everyday guy like you and me can do great things if you learn from others. And that's what I've done. That's what you're doing. And that's what I hope that your viewers and listeners will also do.
Love it, man. Love it. All right. Final question. Rocket fuel law. The one I came up with. It's nothing new, but just reframed the way I do it. Taking everything that comes your way that's usually you would think would be designed to stop you or slow you down, and converting it into rocket fuel to become unstoppable. What has that meant to you in your life? And what does it mean to you going forward? What your mission is now?
Yeah, man. I mean, I just love the concept of rocket fuel. It's kind of like how we started this whole interview, is being able to recognize that the world isn't just going to be rosy and perfect all the time, and being able to recognize exactly like what you've done and understanding it, internalizing, and being able to move forward. It's not easy. Okay. It's just not, but it becomes a lot easier when you do train yourself and understand that you are going to have the adversities, you are going to have the struggles and the speed bumps throughout life. If you can take them, internalize them, and then turn it around, like how you teach people, and I do as well, that those difficult moments, it really is the struggle that creates life. And if you can embrace that and really, like you say, turn that stuff into rocket fuel, the sky's the limit is an understatement.
Love it, man. Love it. Thanks for coming on, Mike. I appreciate you guys. Go support Mike Alden. as we do all of our guests. And you guys have been listening to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy, the unstoppable Mike C-Roc. Go get that Rocket Fuel book, MikeCroc.com/book. And until next time, be unstoppable.